All right, we are getting set for UFC 165. It's coming up Saturday night at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, and we are joined here by a legend here in the sport of the mixed martial arts and the boxing media world, Kevin Iole, Mr. Air Miles, just traveling all over the place. Before we get into Saturday night's card, Kevin, I just wanted to touch a bit upon this past weekend's card with Floyd Mayweather and Saul Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, the judging controversy, very interesting in the fact that Bill Brady has now come out regarding, just the judging selection, stating this is not going to be a rubber stamp anymore. Are we seeing a bit of a culture change within the Nevada State Athletic Commission?
I think so, and I think that's going to extend into MMA, and it's going to go further down the line. The judges now, Keith Kaiser said yesterday, the judges are going to be forced to go to a mandatory seminar coming up later this year that they're going to do. There's going to be a lot more compliance training, so to speak, talking to the judges about why they score, teaching them different things about, how to score a fight. And as you said, Bill Brady is going to make a big point of not rubber stamping, and he's going to pick the judges who are quote-unquote hot. So if there's a big fight, the best judges should be working that fight. I think it's all positive. Too bad, you never want to see somebody lose their job, as C.J. Ross did. But I hope that it can turn into a positive to improve the quality of judging in combat sports.
Was that necessary collateral damage here for C.J. Ross in terms of there had to be somebody here? Like, this was egregious.
Yeah, I thought for a long time it was going to be Steve Mazzagatti. I thought he was going to be the guy that sort of lost out on this to take the step forward. But it looks like it's C.J. Ross. And I think, it's a necessary evil in this business. You don't want to see someone lose their job. But, she blew two major fights in 15 months period of time. And with the amount of money that is at stake in these fights, you can't do that. So the fact that she's gone, I think, is going to put the other judges on edge and make sure that they are concentrating and looking to score the fights as best they can. Not that she wasn't, but I think it's just going to make everybody a little bit better.
This was fight number 2 for Floyd Mayweather on the Showtime contract. What do you feel will be the turnaround for Floyd Mayweather and a potential opponent? I mean, Danny Garcia is kind of being thrown out there as a potential candidate. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's back. He's definitely back in May. He'll fight on Cinco de Mayo again, as he called it, Cinco de Mayweather. So he'll be back for that. And I personally believe it's going to be Danny Garcia at welterweight. A lot of people want to bring up Amir Khan. I just don't see Amir Khan in the mix now. He's running out of quality opponents to fight. So Amir Khan, if he beats Devin Alexander, might get lucky and get the fight sometime down the road. But I think the guy that makes the most sense, he's undefeated, he's coming off a big win over a hard puncher. They can sell Danny Garcia. If you have Amir Khan as the opponent, they're going to show highlights of Amir Khan getting knocked out and losing fights and everything. And I don't think that's the kind of guy they want to put in with Floyd Mayweather when it's going to be on the biggest stage, at least if they don't have to. So I would believe that it would be Danny Garcia.
And what you reported earlier this week, hearing around 2.3 million buys?
Yeah, and it's actually even going up. I've talked to sources. I've been talking to people, DirecTV, In Demand, and not so much at Dish, but and the numbers are really, really big. Richard Schaefer of Golden Boy is now saying he thinks it's going to surpass the record, which is at 2.5 million, 2.525 to be exact. Just amazing what they're doing. I mean, when this fight started, I knew it was a big fight. And I predicted 1.7 million, which I thought was a massive number. Yeah. And a lot of people said, oh, you're too high. And I just got blown away on it, and it's way higher than that. Floyd stands to make over $80 million.
It's incredible. As we move on over to this Saturday, probably not going to do in the 2.5 million range. We have John Jones taking on Alexander Gustafsson right now. Obviously, there are certain challenges right now in presenting contenders that are close to John Jones. You have that giant disparity right now. What do you feel in terms of just the buzz for this card right now and selling contenders for John Jones at this juncture at 205?
Well, I think that's the biggest thing, that there's not a lot of really good quality contenders. The 205 division 2 years ago was arguably the best division in the UFC. Now John Jones has cleaned a lot of those guys out. Some of them have gotten older, and that's a big challenge for them. And now I think that there's other divisions that are better. And when you look at heavyweight, how can you not salivate and say John Jones against Cain Velasquez, John Jones against Junior Dos Santos? Those are fights that really kind of get the blood boiling, and you say, boy, there's some matches here. So to me, I think that it's going to be difficult for them over the next little while. However, John decides to stay at light heavyweight, unless somebody comes out of nowhere, and I don't really see anybody doing that while he's still in the division. They're going to have a tough time selling his fights, only because most people are going to think John's going to blow him out.
You know, you look at the prospect of John Jones surpassing Tito Ortiz's record this Saturday night and then really sitting down and saying, what are my challenges at 205? Do you think that the heavyweight talk amps up after Saturday should John Jones be victorious?
Of course, and it should. I mean, look, the next fight in the UFC is going to be a main event of Cain Velasquez against Junior Dos Santos. Let's assume Cain wins that. Who does Cain right now have to fight? You know, obviously you look at John Jones at that point. Cain will have beaten Junior, and especially if he beats him decisively, you know, back-to-back times, you know, probably not going to make that fight anymore. So now I think people are going to look and say, hey, John Jones is out there. He's 6'4", he's got wide shoulders. You could easily see him pack on a lot of weight. Makes a lot of sense.
You know, as we finish off here, I just wanted to get some of your thoughts because you've covered it so extensively in terms of the drug testing involving George St. Pierre and Johnny Hendricks, a bit of a public black eye, I think, just in terms of how this was all handled. But what do you take as kind of the public's appetite for these kinds of stories? Is there really that desire to know all the ins and outs of if a fighter is clean or not? Do you think that the public really does have any interest in kind of these kind of stories?
I think there's a lot of passion on both sides. There's a lot of people that say, I don't care. I would rather them be juiced up, and I'd rather see bigger knockouts as a result. So you see that aspect of it. There's also a lot of people that feel very strongly the other way, that I don't want to see a death in the cage. I don't want to see somebody get seriously hurt. It's unfair. It's cheating. Just like in baseball, you know, a lot of people are no longer very fond of Barry Bonds. I think that's sort of, you know, there's this hard feelings on both ends of it, and that's what makes it tough. But I think the right thing to do is you have to protect the athletes, and you have to have strong drug testing. And you know, the UFC needs to pick that up and really push forward and increase the amount of testing so that you don't put the burden on the fighters. The burden should be on the promoter to do that.
Looking ahead, you know, to UFC 167, do you feel that will be a big story come fight week going into it, or will it be something that is placed enough in the back burner that it's kind of moved upon?
Well, I think they're going to try to turn it off, but I don't, you know, hey, reporters are going to ask that question because it's a major issue in the sport. And, you know, I personally think GSP looks bad in this whole thing. You know, the way it went down, if you saw the string of emails, you know, George had the ability to make this happen smoothly. He offered to pay, and then they got ticky-tacky with all these emails back and forth, and it created unease on the other side. And all George had to do was pick up the phone to Johnny Hendricks himself and not be such a superstar aloof and say, Johnny, here's what's going on. Here's my deal. Here's what I'm willing to do for you, and this is it. And that would have ended it all. But he didn't do that, and he got lawyers involved, and whenever lawyers get involved, you know what happens. So I put the blame on George, and he's going to have to face a lot of questions for it. I give him credit for being willing to do it, and he's doing the testing himself, but I think the whole fiasco that came out of this is squarely on his shoulders in my mind.
You can follow him on Twitter at Kevin I, as well as all of his work at Yahoo Sports. And if you follow him on Twitter, we'll be seeing a return of a wrestling manager to your avatar in the near future.
Yes, we will see a wrestling manager. I'm not sure if it's going to be the Grand Wizard, Freddie Blassie, or, you know, maybe even Captain Lou Albano, but one of those guys will be there.
There you go. Rest in peace, Captain Lou Albano.